You might hate Ecuador, at least at first.
Yeah, we heard from some new arrivals who had some pretty severe culture shock.
Yeah, so in this video, we're going to talk about what might shock you about Ecuador.
And at the end, we'll share some tips that might help you prepare so you don't hop on the next plane back home. Before we dive in, if you are curious about what's going on in Ecuador, we share a weekly newsletter that has current events that are expat relevant. So we'll put a link in the description so you can go opt into that newsletter. Once you do, you can also download our Ecuador cost of moving and living calculator.
There's going to be times you are way outside of your comfort zone, and we were. Even though we took our exploratory trip, there were times when we were painfully outside of our comfort zone. And one of those reasons is because we were not prepared to speak Spanish. When we got here, we were all cocky, like, oh, we did the language apps, it's going to be fine. No, reality hit, and we were not at all ready.
I really struggle with understanding. I did when we first got here, and I still do, because all the different regions have different dialects. They speak really quickly, and man, sometimes we both just stare at each other with deer in the headlights look because they don't understand my Spanish either.
You will find some people that do speak English, but Ecuador is a predominantly Spanish-speaking country, so do yourself a favor and start taking Spanish lessons now. Really, it's going to make your whole experience so much more enjoyable. Even if you only try to say a few words, it makes it so much more fun, and people are so helpful. They will help you and stumble through and work it out with you, even if it's a little charades to get your point across.
According to a study done last year by Education First, Ecuador ranked dead last in Latin America for English speakers. So do not come here expecting everyone to speak English, or even the majority of people.
I was surprised to learn that the Spanish I learned was largely from Mexico, and Ecuador has some different Spanish words. So that made things a little tricky. But we muddled through, and now our Spanish is so much better. So it's worth it. Take some lessons and just hang in there.
Ecuador is a lot more like an older city in the United States and much less like a perfectly manicured suburban neighborhood. So if you fly into Guayaquil and you drive to Cuenca or the coast, you're going to drive through some pretty rural, undeveloped areas, and you're going to start asking yourself, what the hell have I done?
Some things are going to look a lot different here. You're going to see buildings that are unfinished, buildings without any windows, or at least no glass in the windows. Some places may have dirt floors. You may see dirt roads or uneven sidewalks and weird obstacles kind of in the middle of a sidewalk. One of the things we thought was really kind of creepy and weird at first was the fact that a lot of the houses have these big walls, and then they have broken bottles on top, and then they might even have barbed wire. So that was a little intimidating.
We've talked about this a lot in our other videos. It's noisy here.
Yeah, it is definitely noisier than what we were used to back in the US, and it is not uncommon to hear things like fireworks at any time, day or night. And I mean anytime. It could be 6 a.m. when the church is telling you to wake up and get your butt in there.
Yeah, dogs barking, loud motorcycles, loud buses, blasting music until 4 a.m. in the morning. They just have a different threshold for music and noise here than we do.
Yeah, and don't forget about roosters.
Oh yeah, you could have a rooster right outside your window, or a whole bunch of them. Another cultural difference that's going to push you outside your comfort zone is they do not volunteer information as a general rule. So for example, I went to get 2 prescriptions filled. They shoved some pills in a bag, sent me on my way, and I got home and realized only one was in there. So I went back and I said, where's the other one? They said, oh, well, we don't carry that one. You have to go someplace else for it. But nobody told me. And this happens a lot. They just don't volunteer information. Like you'll go to pay a utility bill and you'll say, I want to pay my electric bill. They charge you for your electric bill, but they don't charge you for the water bill or the phone bill. So you got to be very specific because they just don't volunteer information. One
of the things that shocked me was what I like to call the rule of threes. It seems, at least for me, that it takes 3 times to get anything established. And I'm just used to it now, but it drove me crazy when we first got here. It would take 3 times to get our cell phone set up. It took 3 times to go and get our internet set up. It took 3 times to figure out how to pay our rent, etc., etc. I could keep going on, but you get the idea. It requires a lot of patience.
If you're not an experienced world traveler, this is really going to shock you. You can't drink the tap water. You can't flush the toilet paper throughout most of Ecuador. I've been to a lot of countries in Mexico, Honduras, Belize, several other countries in the Caribbean where you couldn't drink the water or flush the toilet paper. So it really wasn't that shocking to me, and you get used to it pretty quickly. But if you're coming from the United States where you're used to drinking and flushing, it's gonna shock you and it's gonna make you feel really uncomfortable at first.
You're going to be shocked that you have to pay cash for almost everything, and I was not prepared for that. In the US, I never ever had cash. I didn't even remember my ATM pin half the time, and I have to go and look it up because I used my credit card or I just paid online for services. But here, that is not the case. Cash is king. So you may feel uncomfortable at first actually having to go to the ATM frequently and carry cash. You don't need to get a lot of cash, but you do need to have access to it and lots of change.
Don't expect everything to be super cheap in Ecuador. In general, your cost of living is going to be about 1/3 compared to most places in the United States. But some things are more expensive, especially electronics and cars. And if you do most of your shopping at the chain grocery stores, those are like the Safeways and the King Soopers in the US, you're going to pay more, even closer to US prices. If you want to save the most money, you really have to shop at the mercados and the little corner mom and pop fruit stands. But if your goal is to save the most money possible, Ecuador may not be the best spot for you. Places in Asia are even cheaper, like Cambodia and Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, a lot cheaper than Ecuador.
You might feel uncomfortable because you don't know how much things cost, you don't know how much you should pay for something. Prices often fluctuate here and you should negotiate. And maybe you'll feel uncomfortable because you don't like to negotiate. Well, you may end up overpaying and getting price gouged, or what we like to call getting gringoed. And you know what? This can really suck. It's happened to JP and I, but fortunately it doesn't happen very often and not for very much money, but it can make you feel like you were targeted or that you just totally got swindled. Now we're going to share some tips to help you mentally prepare so that you can minimize your culture shock.
And the first one is to change your mindset and look at this as an adventure. Don't have any expectations and know that you're going to be outside your comfort zone. But the longer you're here and the more experiences you have, the easier it will get.
That is so true, and this is why we highly recommend taking an exploratory trip. The first couple of days we were here, I was pretty uncomfortable. I had some anxiety going on, but the longer we were here, the more I just fell in love with Ecuador.
Yeah, so it was like my first date with Amelia. I knew right away this was the spot for me. So yeah, look at it, exploratory trip, more like taking a date for coffee instead of getting married. That's a nice thing about visiting first is you're only here for a short amount of time and you know you're going to be going back home, so it really removes all of that pressure from yourself so you don't feel like you have to love it right away.
Our next tip is to learn Spanish. Don't just rely on those apps, they're great, but you also really need to speak out loud with someone else. So start practicing with some conversational Spanish. It will enhance your experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of options online for that. And the next tip is to be patient. That's something that I still struggle with here. I just want things to be much more efficient than they are. And I just tell myself it will get done. It just may take a little bit longer and maybe 3 trips.
Yeah, and my tip is to trust in the process. To kind of piggybacking off of what JP just said, you just have to relax and go with the flow. Know things will get handled and just be tranquilo. We recommend connecting with other expats online before your exploratory trip and in person if you're able to once you arrive in Ecuador. And it helps you so much to get other people's perspectives. You can connect with people in our Patreon community or in different Facebook groups. Unfortunately, JP and I don't have time to meet with everybody in person as much as we would love to, but it's really awesome to connect with other expats and make some new friends.
Yeah, a lot of expats are more than eager to meet with you and help smooth your transition here. And that's another point we want to make, is that our experience may be different than yours. We only show a small 10, 12-minute slice of our entire week in our videos, so we don't include everything. So when you get here, you may not experience exactly what we show in our little videos.
And finally, we recommend starting in Cuenca.
Yeah, Cuenca is a very modern, European, expat-friendly city. A lot of English-speaking Ecuadorians live there, so it's just a really easy place to start.
Plus, it's less expensive than some parts of the coast. It's very walkable. There's so much to see and do. It's absolutely beautiful. And the people there are so incredibly warm and friendly and welcoming, as they are throughout all of Ecuador.
Yep, hopefully this video will help reduce your culture shock when you arrive. Just please give it some time. Give yourself some time to adjust and get used to it.
And if you found this video helpful, leave us a thumbs up, please.
All right, guys, hope you have an unconventional day, and we will see you all in our next video.
Ciao.
Ciao.